Okay, so for this video, making the Razer Ouroboros Chroma, it's going to be less of a step-by-step guide like my one of changing the blue LEDs out, and it's going to be more of a quick sort of incremental, updates of when I make progress throughout the process, so this video should cut together much faster. So essentially, if you haven't seen the little teaser, I'm going to be using some 0.1 millimeter magnet wire, very thin stuff, and also a USB. I also have a like a 12 to 24 volt version of this somewhere here, but I figured it might have extra components I would have to remove. USB RGB LED controller has common anode, infrared control. And so right now I've just got one LED mounted up. And so this is a 1206 RGB LED. Hang on if I can get it to focus. There we go. So this is a 1206 RGB LED. So as you can see, just in comparison to my finger, it's quite small. It's not nearly as small as the 1206 LEDs or the 0402 LEDs, but it is still quite small, and that's the 0.1 millimeter magnet wire going to it. So the basic idea is to use these to replace the 6 main RGB LEDs in the mouse. So there are 2 LEDs per side of buttons and 2 in here. Now there's also the set of 3 LEDs in the top for the charge level. See, that's the sort of thing. No, I think that's just going to be way too complex to try and make those 3 battery status indicator LEDs RGB, which is part of why I'm using the old mouse. This is my original Ouroboros, as you can tell from the wear, but I'm going to buy, I think, a motherboard for this. This one's very dusty. But you can buy the whole motherboard on eBay for about 40 bucks, and it comes with the side buttons, and that's the main part that wears on these. And then I'll just swap over the button assemblies. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, doing the status lights is going to be really difficult, I think. Because I would basically have to use transistors, intercepting the signal, and then it would have to, I guess, no, then it would have to, yeah, actually maybe just give power to the LED. Oh, shit, that broke. Yeah, so I might be able to actually make that work, although I would need smaller LEDs than these for the battery lights. Basically, have them turn off power to these RGB LEDs. By disconnecting the power cable, which is not that one. But you get the idea, and then they would turn on and off appropriately. But yeah, so basically, I've started by taking this apart. I got back down to the base level of this assembly, which are the buttons. And so the idea is to basically run the magnet wire through along with this ribbon cable for the switches. So the magnet wire is super small and it's flexible, so that means that it should be able to go through fine. And I was a little worried about the size of these lights in comparison, because they're way bigger than 0402, but I forgot that these were like side emitting bigger ones. But if we go ahead, now these also aren't side emitting, so that might still be something I need to get smaller LEDs for. But if we actually go ahead and just put the LED in place there, you can see that it's actually kind of close to the same thickness as the actual, as the actual board and light assembly. It's a little bit taller, but it's pretty close. So, I'm thinking I might just actually cut this circuit and then remove this entirely. And then I will put the LEDs on where that circuit board was. So basically one there, and then that should hopefully illuminate the lights, the thing properly. I don't know for sure. I might need to get like the smaller 0404 RGB LEDs, which are just square compared to 0402. But to solder those, the tip of my iron here is just exactly the same size as this whole LED basically. I'm not going to be able to get that to focus because it moves too much on these wires. So I might need to get like a special tiny soldering iron. Anyways, yeah, so basically that's the gist of this project, is removing the existing LEDs and their boards. And so like this one here, I think I could probably actually just replace with a single LED because these are very bright. A single LED might work in these buttons too. So yeah, then I can light up the scroll wheel as well and just use that board as a mount, but remove the LEDs from on it. Actually, I'm trying to remember, because I need to find a 5-volt source to power this. I can't remember if this is 5 volts. Because if I could power it off of this, that would be super easy. Instead of having to tap off of a microcontroller or something, because the battery is only 3.3 volts, and it probably steps it up for the logic. But yeah, finding a 5-volt source, I don't know if this can run lower than 5 volts, is going to be probably the tricky part. But then there is enough room in here that I should be able to sort of stick this somewhere in here without this end bit here. And then the actual infrared sensor, that is going to go behind one of these grates, I think. So I have to also disassemble this whole section here. And then I could drill a hole there and just have the nub from the infrared sensor peeking through behind this mesh grate, and then you can use the remote to change the color of the LEDs. So yeah, this isn't going to connect to the Razer software, so it's not going to be one of their true Chroma experiences, but it's going to be the closest thing that you can get to a Chroma Razer Ouroboros, because they're not making one apparently. So yeah, I'm not happy settling just for a light blue one. I'm going to make an RGB cycling one, and it's probably going to be a bit of a nightmare, but yeah, I think it'll be pretty cool. Okay, so internal microphone this time. There's actually, I still think I want to try and use 2 LEDs to get better illumination than Razer was able to get, but there's actually right about there's a little cutout section in the black plastic, and the LED actually just fits in there pretty much perfectly. And you can see that it's got super bright illumination on the sides. It does tail off a little bit in the edges still. It's a little bit more prominent in the edges of it tailing off, though, compared to previously. But, oh wow, that pink actually looks really good. I'm warming up to the pinks and the purples with black. But yeah, that's fitting in there really well. And the camera's having a little bit of trouble coping with the brightness of it. But yeah, that looks really good. Even the 1 LED is not bad. I still want to try and get 2 LEDs, though, to have near perfect spread of illumination. But yeah, oh man, even the orange looked pretty good there. But that magenta and that like dark purple, oh man, the mouse is actually gonna look really cool in those colors. Yeah, I'm really excited for this. This is gonna be sweet. Okay, so I've done a couple wires. I'm basically starting on the one side of this. Hang on, let me adjust the exposure. There we go. So I'm starting on one of the side assemblies of this. I used actually a silver Sharpie to repair the wear, and that actually looks pretty good, so I kind of wish I hadn't ordered the other parts. But so far, I've done the positive and the green, and I'll put a picture right now of the basically like color coding I did on another one. So yeah, basically I figured I would just show you doing one of these. So there's the positive and the green, and I just want to get those out of the way. And so I'm basically leaving the positive unmarked, and then on the green, oh, that's not it. Or is it? Yeah. Then on the green one, I've done a little bit in your third hand. Come on. Come on. Okay, I'll just see if I can zoom in. Then so on this green, I've done a little bit of green Sharpie. Okay, I don't think the camera's gonna be able to pick it up, but just a little tiny bit of green Sharpie on the wire itself. Oh, there you can get a glint of it there, just on the enamel. That way I can identify what these wires are once I feed them through. And this is way too long, but I didn't want it to be too short. And I'm using some 3M like mounting tape to hold the LEDs in place. So I'm going to probably zoom in a little more in software, but I'll show you doing one of these. So next I'm going to be doing the let's go for the blue, which are the bottom left. So basically with the LEDs in this orientation, top left is positive, top right is green, bottom right is red, bottom left is blue. So we have our spool of wire, and I will start by, hang on, there it is. So I'm going to start by just very carefully sanding one end of this just a few times. Alright, so you probably won't be able to see, but the end of that wire there is tinned a little bit. Now that's too much. So I am going to then just make sure as little of it is there as possible, just a super tiny end of it with solder. Then you just reposition things. Unfortunately, this light is really in my way for this now. So I'm just going to take this off camera to look at it, and that's not quite good enough. At stuff this small, the actual surface tension of the solder becomes problematic. So I'm going to try some flux. Just get a teeny tiny bit. Take this off camera again. And that's looking pretty good there. So now for the annoyingly hard part, soldering this side, because sanding isn't really going to work, and scraping with an X-Acto knife on wire this small isn't really going to work either. I've basically just been doing something like that. see if that actually soldered on. I do believe that did. And then I'm just going to check to make sure that it didn't stick to the other one. And the other wire is connected. So cut the other end of this wire free. Sand some more. And then I'll tin the end of this. And this one I'll leave tinned, just, you know, nice and long in comparison. That way I can easily connect it to power. So then I just want to confirm that this is actually the blue lights. So got my power on one side. Hang on. I think we just might not have enough voltage. Oh, there we go. So we've got blue light, and that's on this new wire. So I'm gonna grab a blue Sharpie and color code this as best as I can. I had really wanted to get copper wire that was enameled in 3 different colors, and then I couldn't see any that was like a 3 or 4 pair twist, unfortunately. But also, it was just going to be really expensive for that much like different colored enamel wire. I'm also going to touch up this green one. So now you'll see that if I have to be super careful grabbing this stuff because it breaks so easily. Don't want to move too quick with it. So if we go back to the old wire, we've got green. And if we go to this one with a little bit of blue coloring, we've got blue. So I'm going to do red off camera because this is already 10 minutes long. I guess, yeah, I forgot, for a sense of scale, there's a CR2032 battery. And so here, we'll just get some nice up close of the soldering. Yeah, it's pretty fine stuff, and there's the size of the tip of my iron, because I can't find anything smaller locally. So, one more to go, and then I'll probably use tiny dabs of hot glue to hold the wires in place on these. Okay, so I went ahead and shortened the wires and redid the enamel on them. Well, the marker, and I also put a twist in them to make it easier to feed through. And so now, I don't know where my tweezers went. I have to very carefully. Oh God, that's nerve-wracking. Whew. It's really strong stuff that's holding these down. Okay. Okay. Alright, so if I can focus. There we have two LEDs for one side on 4 strands of 0.1 millimeter magnet wire. Okay, so now I have to get them onto there. So I'm gonna pop this out just to make it so easier. And I think basically in those 2 spots is gonna be ideal. So I want them roughly the same level. So how far down does that go? So I think there and there. So that distance I did, I thought I was going to leave a bit of extra. That actually ended up being pretty much perfect. Okay, so let's carefully put that where it won't get lost. Teeny tiny drop of hot glue. And then for the other side. I was thinking about doing like super glue. I'm just not sure how well it would stick. Maybe the gel stuff would work better. But I'm also probably going to move these LEDs from this set of buttons to one of the new sets. When they come in, that is. Oh, that's way too high up. Crap. Oh, they're both way higher up than they should be. Shit. Oh, shit. Okay, so those are way higher up from the surface than I thought they were. See, this thing here, this plastic is quite thick. So I could just try and cut out where it's hitting. It's actually quite large sections of it though. That might give me the room I need though. I'm gonna find an X-Acto knife and cut away a couple parts of that plastic. Okay, so I'm still doing a little bit of tweaking on this just to get both buttons to work when it's screwed together. I think I've got the front one pretty much nailed. Also, side note, the silver Sharpie wears off super fast, so yeah, not a long-term solution. But as you can see, I have moved the LEDs further up and trimmed the, little light guide just to make that a bit skinnier. Let's go ahead and turn this off. And forgive the grease, I was doing some vehicle work, so ran out of Fast Orange to clean my hands, so that's why they're so fucking filthy now all of a sudden. Not the same day. But yeah, the back one I'm having a little bit of trouble with, so I'm thinking it might just be the bit of hot glue. There, that little bump. Is this all the way? So yeah, I'm thinking it's just that bit of hot glue that's stopping the rear button from pressing properly. Basically, when I screw it in, it's pressing the button down a little bit so it clicks, but only partially, so it's not a very satisfying click. So, going to go ahead and pop this out one more time. I'm going to give it a little heat gun, not too much, and then I'm just going to try and scrape away the extra and flatten it down. I don't want to break the magnet wire, but that is a bit thinner there now, so I'm going to go ahead and try that. But you get the general idea. I just wanted to show the adjustments I made to the LED position and to the reflector. Oh yeah, something else I forgot to mention. I took a small file, and as you can see, those have like kind of a matte finish now. I actually went ahead and sanded the LEDs so that they're about half as thick as they were previously. And that's just to make it so they take up a little less space inside there. And I don't know for sure if that's what helped or not, but they were about twice as high previously, so just thought I would mention that. Okay, so before I keep working on lights, I've got one side fully assembled and clicking normally, or as close to normally as I can get it. It's about even with the other button on the other side of this mouse. Not as crisp as my newer mouse, but that could also just be due to the age, even though I don't use the buttons a whole lot. But yeah, so now for basically the infrared receiver, yeah, getting that to work means that obviously I need some sort of line of sight to it. And to do that, these sections here actually just come out with a couple screws, and they just slide right down like that. So, and this is like a metal mesh. So essentially, you slide an X-Acto knife into here, and it's going to split off into two sections, this main section, and then this plastic bit with the actual metal mesh in front of it. So, you just undo these little tabs basically for the metal mesh. I can go ahead and put this back on though. And so it comes out. So I went ahead and drilled a couple holes into this and made them a little wider. And so there we have the metal mesh that's on the front of the mouse with a small hole in it, and I went ahead and drilled a hole through the actual mouse body. And so you can see there we've got a hole that lines up the metal mesh more or less. So I can put my infrared sensor behind here, And then from the front of the mouse, I'll have to super glue. Oh, I have to drill a hole in this too. So I can actually just go ahead and do that right away. So we'll just put it right about there. And yeah, so there we go. So that lines up a little bit like that. And I'm going to elongate all of these with a small file. And then this is going to sit back in here. So then we have a hole from the inside of the mouse that you can just see straight through the metal mesh. And once it's all closed up, that's not going to be very obvious at all. But you can just aim your remote just vaguely at the front of the mouse to change the LED settings. Yeah. So yeah, I think you'd have to really look for that to see it, especially when that sensor is behind it. But yeah, this module, this section here, just pops apart into those 3 sections more or less, with this metal grate being a separate one. And then we can just go ahead and bend the tabs back in. And yeah, so that's going to work quite nicely, actually. I was surprised it was actual metal. I wasn't sure if it would be or not. But yeah, then I just need to super glue that back onto this. And then it'll screw back on once I'm assembling the rest of the mouse, and you'll have a port for the infrared sensor. And then for the board, I'm either going to have it sit sort of here, or I'm thinking maybe across here. Still need to shorten it all down and just get an idea of where it'll, sit. Provided that there's actually room here, I think this spot behind the scroll wheel and everything is going to be quite good. I think fitting it in sideways here will be a little bit tricky with the battery housing, essentially, in the top half of the mouse. I probably should have done some test fits or something like that, but I'll find some way to make this work. Yeah, I think there'll be room up here. So I actually, just for the heck of it, because basically these modules have the standard 8-pin unlabeled, Chinese microcontroller, but it also has fucking notifications. But it also has another 8-pin chip there, and I assumed that was maybe some sort of voltage regulation chip. But actually, if we can go ahead and zoom in, you can see it's 24C02N, and that's actually a serial EEPROM. So I think it's been a while since I had this USB one running, but I think it didn't remember the settings, and also you can set up custom colors. I think from what I recall, this one wasn't working as thoroughly as this one was. So it looks like that chip that is there can actually probably just naturally accept up to, 12 volts input or whatever it was labeled as. Yeah, up to a 12 volt input. And so this is actually a serial EEPROM. So they decided to skimp on that little part. And so this one will remember the setting that the mouse was set to last when it's powered off. And this one won't. So I think I'm probably going to go with this one here. And then, yeah, another benefit is if I want to turn the LED lighting off, I could, if it's powered through here, I could just turn it off, like the lighting, and that'll turn this whole module off. But then it'll actually save the LED setting that it was on last, and also the custom, DIY ones that you set. So, yeah, if you have one of these that isn't saving, like the data or whatever, or saving its settings, you're probably missing that chip there, and you might be able to make it out through the heat shrink that these are packaged in. So yeah, that's interesting. Probably a temporary thing until that Bluetooth one comes, unless that Bluetooth one isn't as compact as these. I really hope it is, though, and they just neglected these aren't touch buttons, but these buttons on the back that would be for another product. So yeah, yeah, the USB one didn't have like an actual USB interface or anything. It was just power from 5 volts. So looks like I'll be going with this one after all. So, I just wanted to mention something because it's easy to make yourself look really good on camera with editing, but mistakes do happen, just like that. I didn't test this after I had put it all back together, and I actually ended up accidentally making a tiny, basically, bridge with the wire between the two rightmost pads. So basically, once I had it together, it was not activating the green light properly. It was doing blue, red, and a slightly brighter red. I had to pull it apart and just basically fix that little error. So I just wanted to show that because mistakes happen. Triple check before you have everything together. Luckily, it was pretty easy to fix. Also, I have this currently running at 3.08 volts. So well below 5 volts. Nope. So it does seem slightly finicky there. It seems at 3.1 volts or so, it's fully functional in terms of doing... Oh, you know what? Actually, it's not... It's a little finicky. It might be my connection too. Oh no, actually it is a thing. So if the voltage is too low there, yeah, because the white just made it drop down. It doesn't always switch LED colors properly. So the voltage source that goes to the scroll wheel, that was at 3.2 volts set to maximum brightness. Now the AA battery is only 1.2 volts, so it's got some sort of circuitry stepping that up. I don't know if that does fail, if that does lower as the battery gets reduced in voltage, even more so. But it seems at like 3.14 volts. And, well, actually, let's go ahead and turn it off just to see. Okay, so that's sitting at 3.2 volts with it completely off. And if I turn it on, it's at 3.14 on white. 3.15, 16... 3.17, really? Okay, yeah. So I'll have to see if it, drops the supply down too much where it isn't able to, actually power the microcontroller properly. If that happens, I do have some tiny boost converters. Yeah, one of these that I used, in my project for, what was it? Oh yeah, my Staples Easy button. I used one of these tiny little boost converters. These don't give a shit about your battery though. They just straight out high frequency drive it till the battery is dead. This is a 3.3 volt one. So that would probably be plenty good for this. I could boost up to 5 volts if I wanted. I've got some 5 volt ones somewhere around here. But yeah, that's an option, and then I can basically just turn the lighting off on the mouse so I don't drain the battery completely. Although it should actually have built-in protection circuitry, so that should be less of an issue. But I'm hoping it works like this, because then it'll draw less power using just the actual 3.2 volt supply for that light, for the scroll wheel. So yeah, that's the this is my repair of the mouse button. Let's see, right now it's not responding to the remote anymore. That's annoying. But if I go ahead and turn the voltage up more. Oh no, maybe it's just a finicky connection on the infrared. Or there's something wrong with the remote. I don't know. Either way. Oh, there we go. That might have just been a weird angle. Hang on, let's, just for testing's sake, let's put it back to, yeah, 3.14. Let's do a fading effect. I think that might have just been the angle for the remote. Maybe it was just too... Whatever. It seems kind of finicky. Yeah, either way. Just wanted to put that in the video. Okay, so here's where I'm at right now. I took the scroll wheel board out and scraped all the surface mount components off of it to put an LED there. And then I started basically trying to get this to fit. I hot glued this in place, and that works fine. The front clips in. But this basically just hits against a screw on this side and a screw on the other side. And no matter how I position it, I had it around this way. No matter how I position this, it just barely won't close. Okay, so, slight change of plan. Basically, I tried cutting this infrared module in half and jumping wires across and everything for it. And I thought I got all the connections, but I must be missing something, or maybe that little 8-pin chip was just too sensitive to being soldered. But then also, just, that didn't work. But then the next couple days afterwards, this came in, and this is a Bluetooth module. And the fact that they can fit all of this crap into something and sell it for so cheap. I mean, this is the same sort of RGB LED controller, but it's Bluetooth. It's way smaller. As you can tell, just the width of the board, and the overall length would be another, 70% of that. So it's overall smaller, and way more advanced. And the fact that they can, churn out such fine assembly as this, just for, relatively such a cheap amount, then it's quite astonishing, really. But yeah, so I'm still doing testing, but basically this module offers way more advanced features, and so like you can see there, it's actually doing a pulsing effect. So this is going to use up more power, but my infrared options are kind of bunked out. I did order some more before I realized that came in. So I need to test it on lower voltages still. Right now it's off of the actual 5-volt USB supply. But yeah, so it connects via Bluetooth, and you can actually do pulsing effects like that. You can change the colors, you can make it sync to music and stuff like that. So I'll put it onto an RGB pulse. And you can change the speed of that pulse too, and the pulsing effect is what I really wanted it to be able to do. So we'll switch over to an RGB pulse, and I'll also change the lighting there. Alright, so I've got it doing a fairly quick little RGB cycle thing. So I think this is actually supposed to fade in and out completely, but I have the speed turned way up. Maybe not. But yeah, I mean, this lets you have much finer control over all the colors than these, crappy remotes do. It actually powers on and connects to the application remarkably fast, especially compared to my Bluetooth radio. It turns on very fast. Yeah, and so I mean, either way, you'd have to either use your smartphone or this to connect to it. So you might actually be able to use an emulator to run a Bluetooth app on your computer to just connect to this and change it. But yeah, so as long as it works properly at lower voltages, this is a lot more complex. So if I drop it down to 3-point-something volts and it doesn't work, that is a potential issue. Then that's going to be bad. But yeah, I mean, that brings life into this project again much faster than I was thinking it would happen. Yeah, sorry, I'm super tired. I was just working on another project that isn't panning out, which is kind of annoying. But this is working nicely, so, yeah, a way smaller module. I hope it should actually be able to all fit inside there. It's not as tall as this one, which I think was the main issue, so, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, so doing some testing, and I'm down to 2.67 volts, and it's still responding to Bluetooth, and still, changing colors and everything. The intensity hasn't changed a huge amount either, from what I can tell. Although that was pretty quick. I was mostly testing to see if this module still works, for Bluetooth and everything, and yeah, it does. So it works even better at low voltage than the infrared ones, which are, simpler, really. Yeah, if I turn the voltage back up to 3.2 volts, I suppose it does sort of change the intensity a little bit. But yeah, that's working even better. So yeah, what do you know? Okay, so I just did a quick test with this basically positioned, well, in the same spot as the other module and where it would normally be. And yeah, it does seem to fit in there and it closes up all the way. And also, I'm gonna hold off on the urge to finish this tonight because the new top section came in. So this is the old top section. And you can see just like how worn that is from just years of use. It's really bad. But I went ahead and moved everything into the new top section that came in, and that's just perfect. I mean, it's a brand new original part. Like whoever, whenever they stop making these, someone, some industrious little guy or whatever, grabbed a bunch of these parts. And they must have known that they grabbed the parts. Like, they didn't grab the circuit boards that go in here or this part, but they grabbed the whole motherboard assembly, and that includes the board, the sensor, it seems, and also these side sections or the buttons that wear out. And they also have these tops, and there are also some docks. I need to get another dock. I don't think I'm going to be able to make that RGB nearly as easily. It doesn't seem like there'd be much point to it, honestly. But yeah, they grabbed the parts that wore out, so I'm really tempted to grab another pair of the motherboard and this just to stockpile it for eventually when, this one and when my, oh boy, when my other one here wears out. This one is nearly new, so that's really not worn out, but in a few years, this is the light blue, one, the original one that I did the modification to, and it'll probably still be my go-to for use, just because, I don't know, I guess just because it's the first one that I did, and the battery status indicators are going to be the matching color, and this is my, favorite color at the moment. Oh, come on. But it's also probably going to have better battery life. I think I got to have it on the dock to turn it on, so that it has power. But yeah, as parts wear out on them, these mice are going to be harder to find in good condition, so. Yeah, yeah, I think 2 is enough, though, although I did see one pop up locally, but it did seem quite used. So yeah, I've got a brand new top section for it. Hopefully these brand new side sections come in. Oh no, it's Friday. Fuck. Okay, so they probably won't come in anytime in the next few days. Oh well. Yeah, so yeah, we'll see. Okay, so my mic is recharging. But just figured I'd mention that I got in the replacement motherboard from eBay. And yeah, it's a genuine part. The only difference I can see really is just that there's a cutout here that isn't on the new one. Let me just take a look at the... Yeah, so it looks like maybe they added a sensor or something later on. So maybe this is actually like an early board version. All the markings seem identical though. I can't really see much of a difference, but I was mainly after these buttons that weren't worn out anyways. So I'll see if maybe that can be taken out. Because I was going to probably switch this over. But thinking about it now, I mean, the dust that's on here, there isn't really a whole lot, so I might not. But I'll still probably take the board out of this one and see if there is a sensor under there. But yeah, just wanted to let you know that the eBay ones do appear to be genuine, just maybe early revisions. Just a little add-on. I think this is actually from a refurb, because there's a little bit of gunk there. But also, you can see there's some wear on the silver. Not as bad as mine, but yeah, so I think this is actually from a refurb mouse, not
not from like new stock from when Razer shut down production on these. So that's a little annoying that there's that wear on this. Hopefully I can clean it up a little bit. Still much better than, mine are, but yeah, not new like I thought it was based on the ad, which is a bit of a shame. So interestingly, my board is on the left here. It looks like my board is actually an earlier revision, so you can see there is a sensor there on the left one that's not present on the right one. If we go ahead and look at the numbers here, was there a revision? It's not on that side. Yeah, you can see 65, whatever, 1000, 25, 90, dash 3 on the left, and dash 5 on the right. So yeah, it looks like my mouse is early enough that it's a different revision, so I'll probably take a couple high-resolution pictures of these. So yeah, maybe that's like a lift-off sensor or something. The laser sensor seems to be about the same, so I'm curious what that is actually that had them remove it. Just another handheld camera note, where I'm going to be mounting the LED for the scroll wheel. I actually just went ahead and sanded that down to the bare fiberglass, just because there were some old contacts there previously, and I don't want it to short out. And I don't want it to short out the back of the LED there, so just figured I'd mention that. Trying one LED on the scroll wheel for now. I might add a second one in, pointing frontwards or something like that. We'll see. And so here we have the finished scroll wheel light assembly. Just have the wire glued on there a little bit too, and with it towards the front of the board. Okay, so here I have the mouse all mostly assembled with the mess of wires, and it's all working. It's flipping out because I don't have the top cover on with the battery status indicator. So yeah, but all the LEDs work, so time for some more assembly. Okay, so here we have it. Yeah. So we have the Bluetooth control board glued in a spot where it holds in. We have one wire going up to the mouse scroll wheel LED. Well, I say one wire, it's 4. And then we have another set going off to this button, and one going off to that one. And, and as you can see, kind of finicky. The cover, oh, come on. There we go, cover closes up. All the buttons work. And as you'll see shortly, we have RGB LED lighting all the way around with all sorts of fading effects and strobing and all sorts of fun stuff like that. Fucking hiccups. Okay, so here we have it, moment of truth. It's not fully assembled, but it is pretty much there. I wish that Bluetooth module had come before I drilled into that, but honestly, that's not a huge deal. I wasn't sure if I could do this, but yeah. All the mouse buttons work. These are going to be the original grade. Then I should be able to just say and the other side is working too, of course. Video of this. I'm just going to kill the lighting altogether, actually.
can do, pulsing individual colors. Oh, pulsing cyan. Where's there? Oh, there is. Okay, so this is the color I want. Or maybe purple. There isn't that sort of like a hot pink, from what I can tell. I don't see a way of changing the. Not even sure if that's going to be super visible or not. Yeah, you can have it do a nice, fast RGB or rainbow effect. So yeah, that's a full, however many colors, and then you can also do the standard adjustment and nice and fast. So that, where is that nice hot pink color? Is that that? I think it's kind of that hot pink that looks really nice with the black.